we're going to be talking about secrets to getting your F1 visa approved. So we're not going to cover direct steps that you need to get your F1 visa or even the documents you need, because really you can find all of this information on numerous sites online. You can go to internationalstudent.com and get that information. You can go to a number of U.S. government sites and get that information. So really what we're going to talk about today are a few of the key requirements for qualifications, and then a few tips on those items, and then we're also going to give you a few sample questions that you might be asked during your F1 visa interview. That way you can sort of formulate answers in your mind before you go in, and that you're better prepared. That way you can be as prepared as possible and hopefully get approved for that F1 visa. So let's go ahead and get started. As always though, if you have any questions, please feel free to send those into the chat feature. I know a lot of you already have. So keep those questions coming though if you have any, and keep in mind that really if you have questions on the actual process, you can find that on internationalstudent.com. So let's get started on some of these tips. So the first thing that they'll be looking for is foreign residence and ties to your home country. So they're going to want to know that after you obtain your U.S. degree that you are going to be returning home. After all, an F1 visa is a temporary student visa. So a few ways that you'll be able to prove this is going to be through a job offer letter. So perhaps you have a company that has offered you a job upon your return after you have your U.S. degree. You'll want to bring that letter with you. Assets. So for example, if you have a vehicle or land or a car, or a home there, you'll want to bring information to show that. And then bank accounts. If you have any bank accounts, you'll want to bring your statements with you, and then any family back home. So those are all a few items that you can show to prove that you actually do have ties to your home country, that you're not going to be permanently relocating to the U.S., that you do in fact want to go there to get your degree. Now, a few tips whenever it comes to this item to being sure that you can meet this qualification. Get personal. Don't be afraid to give them too much information. If you're giving them too much, then they'll stop you. But don't be afraid to really dive into some of those issues about your family and things like that to really show that you have all intentions of going back home, that you have things that you do not want to permanently leave behind. Now, a few items that you want to touch on is, why are you going to become an international student? So what possessed you to want to do this in the first place? How is it going to better you? How is it going to better your family and your career whenever you actually do come back to your home country? So have those ideas in mind, be able to answer those. And then exactly what will you be doing whenever you return? So whenever you do come back to your host country, what do you plan to do with that new U.S. degree that you have? And how is it going to help you in your career? So I know that's a pretty deep question, and you might be thinking, well, I'm not really sure what I'll be doing in 4 to 5 years after I get that degree. But it's something that you'll need to think about and that you'll need to have an answer to, because more than likely they will ask. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at a few sample questions that are related to the foreign residence and ties. So we have here, where do you want to work once you graduate? So once again, they're really going to want to see, if you say, you plan on staying in the U.S., which, part of the agreement of an F1 visa is that you're returning home. So, give your honest answers, but just keep that in mind on what they're looking for. So, where do you want to work once you graduate? How often will you be visiting home during your studies? Do you have any relatives inside the U.S.? Do you have a significant other located in the U.S.? And you're currently employed. Why do you want to leave your job? So this last one, this is if you currently have a job. It's maybe a great job, and so they might be kind of curious as to why you're going to up and leave to go get your U.S. degree. So be ready to answer this question if this does fit your situation. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the second requirement for qualification. So eligible sponsoring institution. So what we mean by this is your school has to be one that's approved. So you can't just get an I-20, which is something that's needed in order to get your F1 visa. You can't just get an I-20 from anywhere. You have to make sure that it's an approved school. So if you're not really sure as to if this school is approved, what you can do is you can give the school a call. Now, what schools have are called the DSO, the Designated School Official. They are really, really educated in helping foreign students, so they are a great resource to contact. But in general, they're not usually going to be the only ones to know if they're an eligible school. But if you do need to contact someone at the school that you wish to attend, then they're a very great contact. Now, just because they're a source that you'll want to utilize with your questions and for tips, Make sure that you don't abuse this relationship. You don't want to call them all the time or email them all the time for information, but definitely use this resource to get some information on your school and on the process of getting your F1 visa, what you need to do. They're a very, very great resource to use at your institution. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at a few sample questions on when it comes to finding an eligible sponsoring institution. So what school will you be attending? Hopefully this will be a very easy question for you to answer. What you might want to do though is research your school and find maybe different acronyms. Perhaps say you're going to attend University of Central Missouri, you'd want to know that it's shortened down to UCM. You might want to know the mascot, things like that. Second, why do you want to attend this school? Name specific reasons. So really dive into your school. Get to know some facts behind your school. Just saying that I picked this school because it's a school in California and it seems like it'll be a sunny location. It's a suitable answer, but more than likely you'll want to have a little bit more information to back up that argument. So do some diving in to find information on the school. Maybe you want to find the total school population. You might want to, as I mentioned before, figure out the mascot. Maybe know a little bit of history on this school. Knowing too much information can never hurt, and really it's going to benefit you too. It'll help you really establish that connection with your school and make it a little bit more fun in the journey for you. So what degree are you pursuing? This one hopefully should be an easy one as well, but you might want to dive into the degree program at your school, get a bit more information on that. That couldn't hurt. Why did you choose to study in the U.S. versus any other country? And do you know about the city in which your school is located? Share details if so. So don't just know about your school, make sure you know where it's located. So know the city, know what's in the city, maybe things to do, where it's located on a map, know what state it's located in. These all seem like very general things, but they might be things that you haven't actually thought about and you do need to know. So do that research and have that to back it up. All right, and third, we have financial support. So 65% of students say that family support is their biggest chunk of funds, according to the Institute of International Education. So, while you have that 65%, you have a whole other chunk of students who they're still really frantically searching for other aid. And if you've seen any of our other hangouts, then we always say first, try to get scholarships. They're free money, so try as hard as you can to get those scholarships. Second, if you still have a few holes to fill, which most of us do, then you can utilize an international student loan. You can try to utilize one. The only thing is, even with getting an international student loan, you still might face a few hurdles. Now, one key hurdle is, in order to be approved for an international student loan, you'll have to be accepted into a school. But in order to get that I-20, you're going to have to be able to show proof of funds. So it's sort of a catch-22, kind of a sticky spot. We know a lot of international students that run into this, and really it's a hard place to be. So the tip for this is going to be use the initial loan approval as proof of funds. And of course, that's if it's okay with your school. So what you would do is you'd apply for the loan, you would put the school down that you wish to attend, and then once you get that initial approval, you can get that to your school, and hopefully they'll be able to issue your I-20 off of that. But once again, it's going to be completely up to your school as to if they'll accept this or not. But it is one option. If you really don't have any other options, and you have to show this proof of funds, then this is kind of a way that might help you get around that little hurdle that you have, that sticky spot. So really, that's a good alternative. All right, so let's take a look at a few sample questions that you might have whenever it comes to showing that you do have financial aid in order to support your studies abroad. So the first one is, what is the occupation and monthly income of your parents? I know this is going to get very personal, and a lot of individuals might have some problem talking about these items, especially whenever it comes to their finances. Just keep in mind, though, these are standard questions. They're not specifically pinpointing you because they don't think that you specifically can afford it. Just expect these questions, and I think you'll be a little bit more comfortable with being able to answer them. Do you have any loans? What is the annual cost of your school? How will you pay for each year of your school? So don't just look at the first year and how you're going to pay for that. You need to think about that second, third, fourth, and maybe fifth year of school. So how are you going to be able to pay for each of those years? And then can we see your bank statement? So they might ask for your bank statements, which once again, it's good to show the ties to your home country as well to bring in those bank statements. But they might want to see those. And then if there's any big withdrawals or big deposits on there, then more than likely they're going to ask what those are all about. So be ready to answer questions specific to what's going on in your bank statements. All right. So these are just a few requirements for qualification that you'll want to keep in mind. Take these questions and really try to formulate answers to them. Like I said, they're going to help you be as prepared as possible for going in for your F1 visa interview. Hopefully you'll get that stamp of approval. Now, a little bit later on, we're going to have 2 other tips, but right now we're going to dive into the questions that you guys have. I know we've had a few come through. Hopefully some of them were answered during the Hangout, but let's go ahead and take a look at those real quick. And if you haven't sent in your question yet, send those in. Hopefully we'll get it answered for you. Okay, so the first one we have, how can I get an F1 visa? As mentioned before, the very first step, you're going to have to find an approved school. Now, we're not going to go into all the steps from there because what you need, all the documentation, we could stay here all day with the ins and outs of that. But if you go to internationalstudent.com, it's going to show you a ton of details and information on what you need, the documentation that you need. So please go there if you don't really know how to navigate around. Up in the search bar, you can just simply type in F1 visa search. It'll bring you a whole slew of information, a ton of different pages that you can choose from on the F1 visa and what you need to do. Okay, let's see, next one. I've been rejected 2 times for my F1 visa for the English as Second Language course because of low Ielts scores. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That's really tough. My subject is Bachelor of Computer Science. If I get a positive mark on the Ielts after applying, is there any chance to get approved? You know, you can try to go through again the process. As you know, you went through the second time. You can try to go back through again, and if circumstances change, then it can really better your odds. So give it a try. There's no harm in trying again. Just try to make sure that you get a better score, and then give it a try. All right. I have no idea what F1 visa means. I'm sorry, could you explain it to me a bit more? I'm eager to know, and thank you very much. Yeah, no problem. So F1 visa, it's just a student visa. So if you're coming to the United States as an international student, you're going to be entering on a temporary visa. And for students, most of the time, it's going to be an F1 visa. So that's what we're referring to by F1 visa. So it's one of the more common ones. But like I said, it doesn't apply in all cases. So that's what it is, a temporary student visa. I think that's all the questions we have for today. Yep, so that's all the questions we have today. Thank you guys for hanging around. And hopefully you can join us for our next Hangout. Once again, I'm Brianna Davis with International Student. We hope these tips will help you to get that F1 visa approval. Good luck and class dismissed.